Hello, Game Cooker US Rocks VR here. How y'all doing today? Um, I am trying to squeeze this video in as quick as I can, so sorry about the, kind of whatever. Not the best setup, but I did my best in the short time I have. So, I told you guys before that anytime I am putting something together, if I bought something, that I would share it with you, so that's what I'm going to do now. I'm very excited to present this particular item in the unboxing. So let me grab it. So I present to you the RTX GTX or RTX 4090, the Zotac Gaming. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit here. Sorry about the camera. I can only run it at 30 frames per second, so yeah, I'm a little stuck on that. So there's a little bit of a trailing situation going on. I don't know if I can zoom in any closer. Let me try. Oh, there we go. Yeah, we can. Let's see. Let me put that down just a little bit. Actually, that might be okay. Let me change the camera a little bit so that I can kind of get it so we can. Yeah, there we go. That might actually work. Let me just try that and see if it'll look okay. Yeah, so this is Zotac Gaming Amp Edition. Get it a little closer. Over this way. Again, sorry about the lighting and the choppiness kind of the video. So I don't know why it's so choppy. It shouldn't be, but I'm not sure how to fix that. So anyway, let's see what's in the box. I guess it's got a nice handle, as you can see. Let me put it up a little bit more so we can see here. Yeah, it's got a nice handle, pretty nice looking box, you know. Again, I got the light bulb like right over the thing here. It's not really working out too well for me. So that's if you want to see the information on the back. And that just basically just says, I mean, I can read it, I guess, a little bit. My eyesight's not great. So it just says ray tracing, tensor cores, DLSS, game ready studio drivers, GeForce Experience, NVIDIA Broadcast, G-Sync, GPU Boost. It's got GDDR6X graphics, PCI Express Gen 4, DirectX, Vulkan, blah, blah, blah. HD CP 2.3, DisplayPort 1.4a, and it supports 4K 120 Hz HDR or 8K 60 Hz HDR, variable refresh rate, and 2.1a HDMI support. Um, yeah. So, I mean, it has the MVENC encoder in it and, you know, all that stuff. So, anybody who knows anything about graphics cards, despite what people say, NVIDIA's the best. I mean, that's just the bottom line. AMD has good cards. I'm not saying they're not good, but NVIDIA has the best overall GPUs. Okay, that's just a fact. Um, so that being said, this here, the 4090, is the world's best GPU that you can get. There is no greater at this time. Now, whether AMD comes out with their own Extreme Edition, that remains to be seen, or whether NVIDIA brings out a 4090 Ti, which would be kind of weird because, I don't know. This thing's pretty powerful as it is, so I don't really see the point in bringing out a more powerful one. But I'm assuming they will, because obviously that would be probably an unlocked version where people will overclock the crap out of it. Um, So I didn't buy this card particularly because I like Zotac or I wanted the AMP edition. I basically went into micro. I got like this feeling. I've been wanting the 4090, and I was able to have the means to get one now, but I couldn't find one online. Obviously, it's all sold out everywhere. So I was like, man, let me take a ride to Micro Center. It's about an hour and a half away, 2 hours with traffic. Um, and let me see like what they got. Even if it's just looking at what they have there, that's fine. Because I wanted to see the 4080s and the 7900 XTs and all that stuff, the XTX. So I got there. I went in. I started talking to one of the store associates, and after I don't know 10 or 15 minutes or whatever it was uh, of us talking, because I was kind of wanted to put together a new system for this too, like to parts anyway, so that we can print it out so I know what I need to get when I'm ready to buy the system. So as we were talking, there's a guy that was walking by, with a large cart full of boxes. So um, I'm actually set up my whole computer thing in the attic. So if you're wondering, that's why it kind of looks all discombobulated up here, but that's fine. It suits my needs. And the associate told me to just hold on a minute. So he went over and talked to the guy who was pulling the cart. And he came back and he said, we have they we some 4090s just came in, and I was like, "What? Really?" I said, "I want one." I was like, "I don't care what kind it is, I want one." So I said, "Can you save one? Can you save it for me?" Because I thought he said there was only one. And he goes, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let me go do that." So he went to the guy, and because it wasn't in the system yet, it wasn't like in the computer yet, because they have to punch it in or whatever. So he made sure that he put one aside for me so that it was there ready. Because I said I have the money, I'm ready, I can get it. So yeah, so this is what I ended up with, the Zotac Gaming Amp Edition. So they did have some 4080s there at Micro Center, a couple, not many. There was only like maybe two, at least that I saw on the shelf. They had a lot of 7900 XTs there. It didn't look like, I mean, I don't know how many they would have gotten in or whatever. I'm just like saying the whole rack was filled up with 79 XTs. Um, and I think there was like two to four XTXs, because I couldn't see how many were behind each other. So there was plenty of the 7900s there. There was no 4090s in the rack. There was only like two 4080s, I believe. I mean, I have a video, so I have to count, but there wasn't many 4080s. And they had some like 3060 Ti's left over. They had a lot of, believe it or not, they had a lot of 6700 XTs, if I'm saying that right, in the rack. And they had a 6950 uh, Radeon GPU in there. um, they had at least one or two of those. So they had a lot of Radeon GPUs still in the rack, which was surprising to me. They didn't have as many NVIDIA GPUs, so I don't know if the rhetoric was exactly accurate on these YouTubers when they were talking about how much, NVIDIA wasn't selling their cards. I mean, um, and just to tell you something funny about that situation, when I was getting ready to leave, right, another guy came in, an older gentleman, or at least my age, maybe older. He came in and he's looking in the GPU rack, and the guy that was my associate, I was talking to him again, and I said, "Oh, go ahead, help him." The guy was looking in the rack, and then he immediately turns to the associate that I was working with. I forget his name. Forgive me. Um, he goes, "You got any 4090s?" So it's like, you know, what can I say? I mean, this is the card to get right now. Now, whether this is going to be the top card for a long time, it does not really matter. I mean, this thing is all you're going to need for the next 4 or 5 years. I mean, unless you like go to high refresh, you know, um, gaming, right? If you're gonna be doing higher than what is it? 4K 120. I think DisplayPort 1.4A goes up to 144 hertz, maybe. It could go up to 240. I'm not sure. I didn't look it up, but I'll say 240 at 1440p or at least 1080 or whatever. Not really sure exactly, but I think it goes up to 240, 1440. Correct me on that though if I'm wrong. So unless you need to go like way up in the refresh on 1440 or 1080, then this card's gonna do you good if you're gonna be happy playing at 4K 120 hertz for the next 4 or 5 years. I mean, this is just going to be enough. I mean, it's already way beyond, um, what people need now. I mean, technically, what most people are going to be playing at. um, yeah. So again, unless you're going to want better ray tracing or much higher refresh rates, there's no reason to really buy another card after you bought this one, right? Like, so I don't know. Like I was telling people in the YouTube chats on certain videos that, and they're going to steal my words probably, is that it's never, it's very rarely a bad investment to buy the top tier card. Okay? Now you can say that's my opinion, but at least so far from my experience, right? So my first top tier card was a RTX 2080 Ti. That was the first top tier card that I ever had. Okay, I never was able to like really afford a top tier card. Now I'm not really able to afford this card, but I just happen to come into some blessing, we'll say, from. I don't know why the microphones, the headphones go to sleep in the middle of me talking. I don't understand that. I came across the blessing, a financial blessing, and I was like, I really wanted this card, so I ended up getting it. But back to the whole buy, if you buy top tier, you're not really going to regret it. Okay, I would say buying a top tier card from Nvidia is better than buying a top tier card from AMD. That's just my opinion. Why? Because Nvidia has more features. So if you're going to be paying $1,000, $1,200, $1,600, if you're going to be paying $1,000 or more, you might as well just go for the maximum that you can get, right? So even though the 4080 pricing kind of sucks, I would rather go with a 4080 than a 7900 XTX. Why? Because it's got all the extra features, right? Like I read on the box initially, right? People don't think about those features, right? GeForce Experience, Shadow Play. Who cares if you got to log in? Like, I mean, it's a kind of annoying, but you got to log in to get the drivers from NVIDIA, but that's not necessarily true because you can download them from the website. So, whatever. But with GeForce Experience is not just to download drivers. It's your whole control panel for setting up your shadow play and everything else. Now the NVIDIA broadcast is separate. I don't know why. I wish they would just integrate that with the GeForce experience. But so that's a separate app you have to download, and that will configure your microphone, noise cancellation, your camera, and all that, and the 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 green screen or if you want to put a background behind you. Like I could blur my um let me see here if I can turn I don't know if I can turn it on mid recording here. I don't want to screw anything up. But let me get up NVIDIA broadcast and see if I can change my camera that I'm on, the little camera here. Um, let me see. Yeah, let me see if I could turn it on and configure this right away. I don't think it's going to work, but let's see. So I'll go to camera. I'll select C16, but it says the camera's busy, so crap. Let me turn it off and see if I can do it. Yeah, I usually have to shut down yeah, I have to shut down OBS in order to do it, so that kind of sucks. All right, well anyway, whatever. Yeah, it's kind of stinks you can't do stuff on the fly, but anyway, that's how you put the background in and everything. So there's, then you got the MVenc encoder in this bad boy to do the streaming. It's got the AV1 encoders now and all that stuff. 24 gigs of VRAM, which is more than enough for anything. Um, so it's got the dual BIOS, as you can see here. So here's the features it's showing. Let's see if I can get this still. Dual BIOS. I don't know what the ice storm is and the freeze and firestorm. I'm not sure what that junk is. It's got extended warranty here, so that's pretty nice. Um, yeah, so back to the point I was making about buying a high-end card. Um, like the RTX 2080 Ti that I bought. Now I was gonna buy a 1080 Ti, but they were like very expensive at the time. So I ended up getting a 1080 card, so whatever. But I would have gotten a 1080 Ti if they were actually the normal price, or at least even just a little bit more. But they were like going well over $1,000 during the crypto craze in 2018 or 2018 it was. Um, so that was pretty ridiculous. Um, but anyway, the RTX 2080 Ti, even though I paid $1,200 for it, it's still running strong today, right? There's no issues with it at all. I mean, I can run games at 4K, right? Not at, not always 60, but if you tweak the settings a little, you can get close to 60 or if not 60 all the time. It has the ray tracing, which again, when you enable it, it's not going to be at 60. It's going to cut down that frame rate a lot, but you can still run a lot of the games over 30 frames per second. And if you put DLSS on, you're going to get a lot more performance. So, it has all the features that these cards have now. So they haven't become obsolete. They've only gotten better over time. So, and that card runs the same, if not better, than a RTX 3070, right? So the 2080 Ti runs faster than the 3070 in a lot of cases. So um, the card is still very relevant. So then the next card I got was the RTX 3090. Now it would have been nice to get a 3090 Ti, but they're way too expensive. So I ended up with an RTX 3090, which again was the top tier card at the time. I mean, you could still say it is because the 3090 Ti is kind of it's a niche product as far as I'm concerned. That's overpriced and a niche product, So the 3090 was technically the top dog on at least on the Nvidia side. So, and that thing, that's what I'm using now in the system I'm recording with. So, and that plays all the games that, you know, it's killing it at 4K, destroying it at 1440. So that one's not irrelevant either, and it's not going to be irrelevant. That's going to last for. several years. So, and that's got 24 gigs of RAM in it, so was it worth the, $1,400 or whatever it was? You know, I would say yes because of the longevity, right? So it was the top tier card. Like if you go with the RTX 2080 Ti, right? So I bought that in 2018, right? So when the next generation, that was the top tier. Then when the next generation came around, it was like the top mid tier as far as performance goes. Now, based on this particular 4000 series, it's kind of still mid tier. Like it still hasn't dropped to the bottom. You know what I'm saying? Because even now, if you bought a 3070 for a good price, it wouldn't be a bad investment at all. I mean, it definitely wouldn't be a bad investment at all. So, um, yeah, so it, and how many years has that been now? 2018. Well, let's just go say 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022. So that's, you know, over a 4-year-old card now, you know. So, and it's still going strong because the 3070 performance is not bad at all. It's over actually more than 3070 because of the extra RAM it has or whatever. But, so that card's still going to be good for another what, 2 years at least, maybe three, because the games really aren't getting that much more. They're not really getting, most games are not getting that much more demanding than they were even 2 years ago. Yeah, there are a couple outliers, but most games are just, they're just pumping them out. They're not really putting too much effort into making like these super detailed, kind of high fidelity games. I mean, they look better now because of techniques, but as far as like resources and stuff, the games are becoming more efficient, I think, actually. So the older cards are having a longer lifespan. Uh, yeah, so I mean, you can. I don't have any regrets, really. I mean, I'm just an enthusiast, so that's why I wanted this. So, um, yeah, you don't have to buy this, but if you buy this, it's not going to be a bad investment at all. It's going to last you for a long time. So I mean, if you said the RTX 2080 Ti, right? Um, $1,200, right? So if you split that in the 4 years, right? It's over 4 years old, but you know, if you say 4 years, then that's $300 a year, right? So right now, I spent $300 a year for the RTX 2080 Ti to give me high fidelity gaming. Like it's still super relevant today. It's not a low tier card even today. Okay, so it pumps out very good frame rates at 1440 and 1080p for sure. And the 3090, I mean, yeah, that's 2 years old now. You paid $1,500. That's a little bit more money, but the performance of that is like way above the 2080 Ti, right? So, um, yeah, so it's going to balance out to be the same thing. The more years you have your card and the more years you can play at good frame rates, okay? Because remember, a low tier card's cheap, but you're not going to be playing at super high frame rates forever and ever, right? Those cards kind of diminish over time. Whereas these top tier cards, they last a long time before they have a major drop off. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, even the 1080 Ti, even though that's definitely dated now, I would say that probably fell off the cliff. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying that had its major drop off already. Even though at 1080p, you can probably still kill the frame rates, right? But 1440, might struggle a little bit with the newer games. But it's still going to be a banging 1080p card, so you're still going to be able to kick out some frame rates with that thing. So, so it's still relevant today, very relevant. So that's just another year added to its life, right? And that card was a better bargain than anything, you know. So, uh, yeah, so don't have any regrets if you buy a top tier card, especially the right kind. Like I said, Nvidia I think is a better investment at the top end than AMD is. To me, AMD has more bang for the buck at the lower end, not the upper end, at least in my opinion. Even though they're cheaper usually, you could say. But again, there's more features in this. Anyway, let's go ahead and do the unboxing. I think I said all I need to say. Um, I didn't try opening this up yet, so I have to find out exactly where. Um, oh, wait a second. Now this thing, here we go. Okay, I don't know if I'm doing this right or not. I see some stuff coming up here, but I don't want to rip it. I should have probably tried opening it before I started the video, but I can see something. I don't know if you just take the box apart. I would think it's going to open up somehow. Oh, all right. I got to cut the tape. Duh. I kind of figured there was tape somewhere. I didn't see it. All right, so I'm just going to get my utility camping knife here and cut it open. Sorry, I'm not as clean as other YouTubers. I got my mouse here. Put my knife over here. Okay, so now we can open this baby up. Okay, so that just kind of comes off, as you can see here. Just kind of flips up. Okay, then we can just take this out. Then what we'll do is we'll close this box back up. Again, sorry about the choppiness of the video. I don't know why it's so choppy, but I guess the camera only runs at 30 frames per second, so I guess that's why it's kind of very choppy. Plus, I'm zoomed in, so sometimes that kind of makes things a little weird. But anyway, here, so it opens like this. Oh, let me show you the top here. I don't know if you can see it. It says Zotac Gaming. Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how to put the camera so guys can see the best. Yeah, Zotac Gaming. It's got a nice design here. If we can get a better angle here, see the light's like shining right on it. Let's open this thing up. What is this? I don't know what that is. Probably sticker. It says, "Love gaming, power the win." What the heck is this thing? How do you open it? Okay, so there's a little instruction manual. Let me see if I can change the color on this. The color is just very weird. Um, should be able to sharpness is way up. If we need to do the white balance. Oh, okay, white balance. Yeah, I better put that on auto. Um, now it's yellow. Um, no, I messed it up. Okay, so yeah, I kind of screwed that up, didn't I? I can turn the saturation down a little. It's up kind of high. All right, anyway, let's just go with that. Whatever. Um, got a it's like a little cardboard um thing that you can. I don't know if you can see the directions there. I guess it's for you to stand up on your desk or something. I would have rather had a sticker. So it tells you about the power connector or the RGB plug. Locate the RGB header on your Zotac gaming card. Plug the bundled 3-pin RGB header cable into the graphics card. Then connect your LED light strip to the cable. So it tells you how to goodness, plug in the I don't know what's going on with this camera, man. It's supposed to be usually very clear. So anyway, that tells you about the RGB. And I screwed up the color. Wow. Let me see if I can get the white back here. Jeez. Can't believe I messed that up. Alright, I think that's a little better now. Okay. Alright, so let's open this up. Okay, so here we have a bracket. So I guess this is the bracket for the video card. I'm not sure, but that's what I'm assuming. And then this is everybody's favorite cable. Here's the little RGB cable. And here's everybody's favorite cable. I might end up ordering my own cable, depending on my case and everything, if I don't have enough room for it to bend. But I'm going to try to get a case that's, of course, uh, suitable, since I know what I'm getting into. Oh, yeah, let me put this thing down here. Bracket goes. I gotta watch I don't. Oh, I gotta watch I don't mess that up. Boy, that's not very good. The metal's like sticking out. They don't have a cap on it at all. That's not cool. Yeah, so I gotta be careful I don't bend those. Alright, now the moment of truth. Here we go. Let me close this. Now this is gray and silver here. It looks kind of white in the video. So I don't know if I should put it on the back here because it's a little closer, but now this thing won't close tight. Anyway, put that there. Alrighty, look at this. This is a monster. Wow. Oof. They are big. Wow, look at that thing. Wow. It's pretty nice. I mean, it's very open. Seems like it's got a metal back plate. Very nice. It's funny, it says high power consumption. Please use only separate power cables for each power connection to maintain voltage. Use 12 volt HPWR connection if your PSU natively supports it, else use only the supplied power adapter cable. Do not touch the graphics card or its components and cables while in use. I imagine that's, I mean, I guess you can get electrically shocked, but I think it's more about the heat. But that's actually pretty nice. Let me see if I can flip it so you guys, it's pretty nice. Let me, I think this would be, you know. It's not the best looking card, but I mean, I do like the round um, curviness to it. It's sexy. Look at that. That's quite a cooler, huh? And it has a switch, a little button right here, which I'm not sure if that's for the RGB. Mm, I'll look again. There's the inside there. Then of course you got your normal um, display port, 3 display port and 1 HDMI. Yeah, let me see where if there's another switch here somewhere, which usually is on the top, I believe. I don't think it's going to be on the bottom. I mean, it's not that heavy. I mean, the way they were making it sound like these things are like, lead, but they're not really that bad. Well, anyway, this is the 4090. Um, Zotac um, amped edition. Maybe put it on here for some contrast. I can put this behind it so you can kind of stand it up a little. Hmm. I don't know how those guys get such crisp video. My camera always gives me a problem when I need it most. Yeah, I really like the back plate. It says "Live to Game." Again, was gonna look to see if there's any thermal pads. Actually, it looks like sure. what that is there. If that's the yeah, I don't see any thermal pads there. It's just oh, actually there is here. There's thermal pads on this side, and I think maybe somewhere around here too, because I can't see with this thing. But there's definitely thermal pads here around this GPU here. So yeah, they definitely it looks yeah, it does look like there's thermal pads on this side, this side. So it's probably on the memory or whatever's there. So this thing does have some use. So and you can hear, I don't know if you can hear that, but it's metal. So anyway, so there you go. All right, guys. Well, that's the unboxing. I will. I do have some parts I bought, uh, at least to start out my build, but I don't have the processor, um, or anything yet. I'm still trying to figure out what to go with. It's very hard to decide because the 7950X processor from AMD, Micro Center has it right now for $569. I mean, that is pretty insane. So I might end up going with that, and that comes with free DDR5 RAM. So that's pretty insane. Right? Now, hopefully it's the right kind. Um, so yeah, that's a really good deal. So I really didn't want to go AMD, but ugh, that's hard to turn down, man. That's well, it's not quite $50 cheaper because the 13900K, which is what I wanted, is well, say 600 right now, 599, which is pretty good still. Um, so it's like, man, hard to decide. You know what I mean? Because $569, I think it was 569, might have been 549, but and then you get the free DDR5 RAM, so that's saving you $200 right there. So you're getting the processor for what, uh, $150 cheaper, and then you're getting free DDR5 RAM. So that's like totally insane. Now, mind you, it's only I think it's only the 6000 DDR5, so it's not the fastest. But nonetheless, that's a pretty good deal, man. It's hard for me to pass up. I mean, I want to get the 13900K, but I mean, that's a 16 core, 32 thread processor that runs at 5.7 gigahertz. I mean, that's really, I think it runs at 5.7, the 16 core, doesn't it? Yeah, I'm pretty sure that goes up to 5.7. So, yeah, so that should run this thing. That shouldn't really bottleneck this. I mean, I don't think it's going to. So that's my struggle right now. So you guys tell me what you think if you get this far in the video. Anyway, thank you very much. Um, RTX 4090 amp edition. Let me put this over here. Um, yeah, tell me what you think. Um, do you think I made a bad decision? Or, you know, like I said, I think buying the top tier is better. I mean, a 4080 would still last a long time, I think, too. But, you know, that one, I don't like the specs on that one. It's just a weird. I mean, it's a good card, very good, but just their whole decision with that was weird. Like they should have just brought out like a I don't know. They should have brought out a 4090 and then they should have made the 4080, the 4080 Ti, but they probably couldn't do that yet because the um they have to they have to produce in order to make the Ti version, they have to wait for the 4090s to get to get cut at the TSMC or wherever they're doing it, right? So that when they have the defective 4090s, right, they can disable the components on the board that they need to or on the chip that they need to disable. So so they probably are still manufacturing these, right? Especially since they're going like hot off the press. Like they're getting not hot off the press, but um, they're flying off the shelf. You know, I walk in, I buy one, and then some other guy walks in a little bit later, and he walks out with one. So these are in no way not selling. These are flying off the shelf. As soon as, in fact, I just proved that when you walk in the store, when they come into the store, they're immediately going out of the store. Like I'm proof. The guy that came in after me is proof. And you still have 4080s sitting on the shelf and 7900 XTXs and XTs. Because I think anybody who's willing to spend $1,000 is going to be struggling in their mind, right? Like, man, I'm spending $1,000 on a XTX from AMD. It's a good card, at least, you know, relative. Um, but man, I'm spending $1,000 for $600 more, right? Because I paid this one was pretty much close to stock price, 1649 or whatever it was. So I didn't pay an exorbitant extra amount of money for this, you know. So um, you know, so it's really tough. Anybody who bought an XTX, I think they should have went with this because the XTX, despite what the reviewers are saying, I don't know. I don't really think it's going to beat this thing out in a lot of the games. I think this thing is being bottlenecked. That's what I think. Um, by even these fast processors that we have now. So, you know, they obviously might be able to play with drivers and get the XTX to perform, you know, well. But again, this still has all the features that are out right now. The XTX doesn't really have all the features that are out now for GPUs. I mean, yes, it does do ray tracing, but it doesn't really do it good enough, right? It doesn't. I mean, it's equivalent to last generation NVIDIA. So there's still a whole generation behind. And a lot of people were saying that the ray tracing last generation for NVIDIA still wasn't quite good enough, right? It was good, like you can use it, you know, and enable DLSS on quality and still get a pretty good experience, but it still was kind of we don't want to enable DLSS, right? I mean, DLSS is great, and I'm glad it's there. But the 4090 now, in a lot of cases, not every case, but a lot of cases, you can get 60 frames per second now at 4K running ray tracing. Whereas before, you couldn't really do that a lot of the time. I mean, there were some games where you could manage that, but When you have full ray tracing going on and you can still get over 60 frames per second without DLSS, that's a winner. You know what I mean? That's a winner. That's sending the first astronauts to the moon. So AMD just cannot match this at all, no matter what they do. It doesn't matter if they win in rasterization. This still wins. This is still the winner. Despite what the AMD fam people say and the media, which always pampers AMD, this thing is still the winner. Okay? It's got lots of features that AMD doesn't. It has a lot of software that AMD didn't, that it's kind of refined quite well up to this point. And the AI, the DLSS, the reflex, all that stuff has been now out for years. So it's been kind of getting perfected every generation. So it doesn't matter what AMD decides they want to throw into their RDNA 3 now. They're always now going to be one generation or more behind in whatever they decide they're going to throw in there, right? Because they still have to catch up to NVIDIA. So that's just the way it is. I mean, again, I'm not saying the NVIDIA cards are terrible, but they're still behind. That's just the way it is. People can talk about rasterization all day long, but to me, okay, I can buy $1,000 card for getting 10 more frames per second in even if it was all the games, let's just say. If I got 10 frames per second more in all the games, it's still that's all you're buying. Like that's really all you're getting. Not to say that AMD features that they do have are not okay. They are, I guess, but uh, the streaming's still good with Nvidia. The AI is still better with Nvidia. The upscaling technology, the reflex is refined and works. Um, you know, and on and on. I can go on and on and on. Right? So uh, again, if somebody's going to spend $1,000, I would say save up the extra money and get a 4090, right? Or if a 4080 Ti, or save up for 4080 Ti when it comes out. Okay, so and that's not going to be long. I'm assuming they're going to come out with a 4080 Ti within 6 months, maybe. You know, because I guess they're going to bring out the low tier cards. So once you get down to like say the 4060, then they're going to come out with a 4080 Ti. Once the 4090 stock starts to slow down, they're going to bring out the 4080 Ti, right? Because now they have all the defective chips and they can, you know, tweak them all to perform well to be a 4080 Ti. So you're going to pay I don't know what it's going to be, but if the 4090 is 1600, then I would say the 4080 Ti is going to be $200 less. So it might be 1400, right? So that's still going to be well worth it over the XTX, right? Because it's going to beat the XTX, the 4080 Ti. So if you want to buy a new video card and you don't need something right now, then wait for either buy the 4090, get up another $600 to get this, or wait for the 4080 Ti. Right? Because if you're an enthusiast, if you're a high FPS gamer, then why would you waste your thousand now when you can get this? Just wait a little bit longer, save up a little bit longer, and get this. because this is going to last longer. This is going to be relevant longer because all the features that are in here are not going away. Ray tracing is on the rise. You know what I'm saying? All the features in here are on the rise. DLS is only getting better, right? DLSS. And FSR is just going to basically bring the same kind of techniques in that DLSS already has, right? Maybe. That's just a maybe, right? There's only so much that you can do with literally just using software, right? There's a reason why NVIDIA is using the tensor cores for DLSS. You know, yes, you can do upscaling. There's been upscaling methods forever, but it's better to do it if you have a separate set of hardware doing the upscaling for you, then that takes away a lot of resource headroom, or that makes more resource headroom where it would otherwise be taken away, right? So AMD right now, they're using their, regular cores, at least as far as I know, to do the FSR. So that's taking away something from it, right? So it can only do so much to really bring the quality out if it's upscaling. Whereas DLSS, that's like having a whole separate factory over here from the CUDA cores, right? Doing their thing while the CUDA cores can keep doing their thing without getting disturbed per se. Now I'm just simplifying it. There might be some connection there somewhere, but yeah, yeah, you get what I'm saying, you know? It's like you have a separate engine, in other words, doing the work for the upscaling, rather than the CUDA cores doing both, you know? So to me, that's a better method. Everybody wants open source. Oh, yeah, make it good for everybody. Well, I'm sure that if AMD had some kind of tensor cores in their um, GPU, then they could maybe use DLSS somehow. I don't know. Um, I'm not an engineer, so I'm not sure about that. But I don't see why not. But then if AMD has their own tensor core type things, then they're just going to dedicate that to the FSR, right? Because they're not going to want to piggyback off of NVIDIA. So now you're in the same situation, right? Where AMD is just using their own hardware for their own thing, even though FSR can be run on everything, right? So, um, but it's not going to be at the same quality as AMD if they're using a dedicated section of their card to do the FSR, right? It won't be the same as running FSR on a 1080, or a Vega 64 if you can even do FSR on that. You know what I'm saying? So or 5700 XT. So it's going to be of a lesser quality on the other cards versus the AMD card that has dedicated AI to do the upscaling because those 5700 XTs won't have it, you know. So somewhere along the line they're going to piss off their fan base because we're moving forward with all this stuff it seems. It doesn't seem like developers like dislike DLSS or dislike ray tracing. From the little bit that I've delved into as far as looking into how the reaction of game developers to ray tracing and DLSS, I've only seen mostly positive feedback. You know, um, the Unreal Engine has jumped on board with ray tracing. Unity, I think, has jumped on board with ray tracing. Did I say that right? Anyway, so yeah, so everybody's jumping on board. And if you can just pop a card in, right, and experience ray tracing immediately at a decent frame rate, why wouldn't a game developer like that, right? Because before, if you wanted to implement some kind of ray tracing into your game, I don't even know if you could, but at least when you're making movies, you had to spend you know, weeks to render that stuff. Whereas now you just pop in a GPU and there it is, you know, in real time. Even if it's kind of choppy, it doesn't matter. At least you can modify and make adjustments to it like on the fly rather than have to wait for something to get rendered or whatever the case is. You can make the changes immediately, and then you render it. But then it's still going to take much less time to render it because it's already there, So yeah, so you can call me whatever you want. I mean, NVIDIA fanboy or whatever the case is. It's not about that. It's just about I like features. Just like in a car, right? I don't like the basic model. Even if I don't have a lot of money, even before, but I was always willing to put out the extra sacrifice to get the extra stuff in the vehicle, right? The little bells and whistles that you wouldn't normally get in a basic model, right? So that's the thing. I jumped on the ray tracing immediately because when I did the research, when I looked into who uses ray tracing and who wants ray tracing and who desires it, you know, the industry, the movie industry, the gaming industry, they all seem like they wanted it, that if it was something that could be done easily, then they were more than happy to use it, because that's better sometimes than just having to spend all that time baking fake shadows and everything else into a game, you know, or have artists draw fake stuff into a game when it didn't need to be. It's I think it makes things a little less complicated. It's not easy no matter what you're doing when you're developing a game or a movie, it's one of those things, right? So but again, it's not about being a fanboy. It's about features, it's about reliability, it's about driver updates, which NVIDIA constantly gets. Um, I have never had a problem really with NVIDIA drivers for a long time now. Maybe way back in, I don't know, um, the 600 series, there might have been some issues. Um, the 970 never really had any issues with that. I mean, but again, it was just really just not very often, Shadow play might have been broken, when they did a certain driver update, so they had to kind of do a mini update to fix it because for some reason their drivers broke the shadow play, um, or it wasn't functioning properly. It would still work, but it just wouldn't function right. But again, that wasn't very often. That was, most of the time, NVIDIA is on top of things. When a new game's coming out, they want to have their drivers ready. So they don't mind spending the money to work with developers, spending the money to make sure they have good drivers, spending money working with people in the industry to make sure that their software works with their cards. And this is why you pay a premium, right? This is why Intel in some ways was expensive because they worked with their vendors and that costs money, right? Because if you're trying to woo somebody to work with you, you have to kind of put out the time and the effort and the money to work with them. It's not just a matter of you saying, "Well, you better make sure your software works with my card," and they're going to flip you the finger and say, "We're going to work with the other guy. We don't care what your card does. If it runs on that one, then that's great." Everybody says it's simply because of um, the market share that NVIDIA has. Yes, that does have a effect on whether a software developer is going to try to work harder when you have, say, more NVIDIA cards out there. But it's not that simple. NVIDIA still has to work with the vendors to make sure that everything is working in sync and working well. You know what I'm saying? They still have to send their guys out to work with them, right? Or communicate or whatever the case is. They have to have testing going on to make sure that the cards are going to run well with the software. So all that costs time and money, you know? So that's what you're paying for. Not only the fact that things are more expensive now anyway, no matter what you buy, but you know, TVs are different because they're, the old new stuff is now old, so that's the price comes down, right? Um, but mostly a lot of things are just more expensive now, so you're going to pay more money. But still, they price this thing, I think, right. Of course, we all wish it was cheaper, but um, for what you're getting, you know, 30 to 40% better performance than say the 7900 XTX. Forget it. I ignore the outliers, you know. But if you want to factor in ray tracing and rasterization, you're getting way more performance here. So anyway, that's all I got. Zotac Gaming Amp Edition. Um, I can't wait to build my computer. So as soon as I get all the parts, I'm going to do a video to do that. All right? Anyway, peace, guys. Thanks for watching. And take care of yourself. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Happy Hanukkah. All the happiness to you. All right? Take care. Bye.